The U.S. Special Envoy for Haiti has resigned, describing the Biden administration's policy of deporting Haitian migrants as inhumane and counterproductive. The White House said that Daniel Foote had never raised his concerns about migration. Germany heads to the polls on Sunday to decide its successor to Angela Merkel. She's led as Chancellor for 16 years. The European Commission has announced plans to ensure that chargers are made compatible with all portable electronic devices. It said a universal charger for all mobile phones, tablets and headphones would cut waste and avoid duplication. And electricity prices are hitting record highs across Europe, slamming people with higher power bills and putting politicians on the spot. It's forced some UK energy suppliers out of business.
In Hong Kong, 47 democracy activists charged under a new national security law appear in court. Most have been detained since March. The head of the World Health Organization warns of rising cases of measles and diarrhea in Afghanistan and a shortage of medical supplies in Lebanon. At the UN General Assembly, the President of the Dominican Republic called on diplomats to assist neighboring Haiti with its crisis. And in New Zealand, hundreds gather to mourn the killing of 3 young girls last week. The children's mother has been charged.
We begin with the race to lead Japan's main ruling party. The Liberal Democratic Party is set to hold a leadership election later this month. 4 people are in the running, and they've begun 4 days of online debates addressing questions from the public. One focus is the coronavirus pandemic. The candidates spoke about their exit strategies.
The death rate has fallen considerably because of vaccinations. Everyone who wants a vaccine will be able to get it by the end of November. And therapeutic drugs are being developed. Digital technologies mean we can make subsidy payments quickly. So the landscape is going to change considerably.
Given the outlook, we need to push ahead with vaccinations and development of therapeutic drugs. Things may take time, so I want to create economic strategies and ways to support livelihoods and employment in order to gain everyone's cooperation.
Japan is an extraordinary country in that more than 90% of the people are masking up. So if we take thorough preventive measures and make vaccines and therapeutic drugs available, we will definitely see an exit. Until then, I want to take stronger measures to save companies from going bankrupt and to help freelancers and other workers.
It's likely that more than 70% of the population will have been vaccinated by the end of this month, and that will reach a turning point, like some other countries, by trying to get closer to 100%. I want to get the economy moving and lift everyone's psychological burden.
The online policy debates continue until Sunday. Votes in the party leadership election will be counted next Wednesday. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has called for responsible action on climate change. He told the United Nations General Assembly that humanity is approaching a critical turning point. Johnson was speaking to leaders ahead of the UN climate conference his country will host in November.
COP26 summit is the turning point for humanity. We must show that we are capable of learning and maturing and finally taking responsibility for the destruction we are inflicting, not just upon our planet, but upon ourselves.
Johnson urged governments to limit the rise in temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius from pre-industrial levels. He urged developed nations to stop coal-fired power generation by 2030 and developing countries to stop by 2040. Johnson referred to flooding, fires, and other disasters caused by extreme weather. He said our grandchildren will know that this generation were warned, but missed our cue. He said they will ask themselves what kind of people we were to be so selfish and so short-sighted. Next, the global response to the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan. The foreign ministers of the UN Security Council's 5 permanent members have agreed to urge the Taliban to uphold women's rights, but they were apparently split about whether to provide financial aid. The American, British, French, and Russian foreign ministers gathered in New York. Their Chinese counterpart joined them online. Also present was UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. A high-ranking U.S. State Department official says they agreed to urge the Taliban to ensure Afghanistan does not become a hub for terrorism. The Afghan government's assets outside the country have been frozen since the Taliban took power last month. The U.S. and European governments are cautious about lifting that measure. China and Russia say it should be lifted immediately to provide humanitarian aid. The senior U.S. official said it's easy for China to claim the Afghan government's foreign assets should be unfrozen, as none of those assets are in China. The official said the U.S. believes the Taliban must first deliver on their promises. In Germany, police have arrested a man who fatally shot a gas station clerk in a dispute about face masks. The incident has sent shockwaves around the nation as it fights the coronavirus pandemic. The killing took place on Saturday in the western town of Ida Oberstein. Police say the man opened fire after getting into a row for removing his mask at the cashier. The 49-year-old turned himself in and was arrested on Sunday morning. Police say he told them he was angry about not being able to enter the shop without a mask. People in Germany are required to wear them in stores and on public transportation. Chancellor Angela Merkel said the incident left her lost for words. Researchers from Japan and Uganda have alarming news about a strain of malaria in East Africa. They say it's resistant to a key drug for treating the disease and is spreading rapidly. The researchers released their findings in the New England Journal of Medicine. Their work involves studying 240 patients in Uganda. They say 14 showed signs of resistance to artemisinin, the primary medicine for combating malaria. Blood tests from 2015 found no such mutations, but 16% of the blood tests conducted in 2019 did. The World Health Organization says more than 400,000 people die from malaria every year. It is regarded as one of the world's 3 major infectious diseases, along with tuberculosis and AIDS. Japan's education ministry says it aims to institute Japanese language instruction in the nation's high schools for students who have foreign backgrounds. The number of such students has been increasing. An expert panel from the ministry issued a list of proposals on Wednesday that it wants to implement by 2023. The panel is calling on high schools to set up special curriculum similar to those already in place in elementary and junior high schools. The panel says instruction should be geared to a student's language proficiency. It also says such classes should be counted as credit. A recent survey by the ministry showed that more than 4,000 high school students require Japanese language instruction. This marked a nearly 3-fold increase in 10 years. About 10% of the students dropped out of school due to problems such as the difficulty in overcoming the language barrier. The number far exceeds the 1% dropout rate for all public high school students in Japan. Before we go, a zoo in central Japan is planning a treat for the public. It says it's going to show off a pair of recently born red pandas for the first time. The female twins were born at the Nagano Chaosuyama Zoo on July 1st. Each weighed about 500 grams, about 3 weeks after their birth. Zoo officials say the animals are now 2 to 3 times that size, and they already have distinctive stripes on their bushy tails. They are the first red pandas born at Chaosuyama in 6 years, bringing the zoo's population to 16. It plans to ask the public to think up names for the twins. Their public debut could take place as early as this month. Those were the stories for this hour.